All right, so we can get started. My name's Kim Logan, and along with Kevin Strunk today, we're going to talk to you about ways to kind of use your syllabus to help you. I think the title of this is using your syllabus in class to help you pass, but we don't want to just help you pass. We want to help you really, really do well in your courses. So we're going to do a little kind of overview of the syllabus and why it's important, and then Kevin has this, some interactive worksheets for us to use after that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, but let me just see what's on my screen because I've had a bunch of things up. So, okay, cool. Use this one here. All right, can you see that slideshow? Okay. All right, so using the syllabus for your academic success. So the first thing to kind of think about is, what is a syllabus? I know that you guys, 2.5 weeks ago got into class, and, probably in the fall semester or any previous experience you've had in college where you've been handed, a syllabus that first day of class. And it's this document, right, that you probably look at the first week of class and then tuck it away in your folder, and sometimes don't think about it until the end of the semester, or maybe don't think about it again. But the definition, the formal definition is, according to Stanford, is the syllabus is a guide to a course and what will be expected of students in the course, and generally includes course policies, rules and regulations, required texts, and a schedule of assignments. The syllabus outlines nearly everything that students need to know about the course and how the course will be run and what will be expected of them as students. And the way that I when I used to teach classes, the way that I would describe a syllabus is, it was like more or less our contract with one another. In fact, I did work at one institution where students had a sign that they received and understood the syllabus. So it is something that's important to know. I know when we say things like policies, rules, and regulations, I don't know if you're anything like me, if something like that pops up on a website, I'm like, yeah, click, I read it. and probably shouldn't do that. But we're going to talk about why it's probably important to look a little bit more closely at your syllabus. So the several areas of the syllabus, and the reason why this document is important to you is it includes basic course information, the course objectives and outcomes, the materials that are necessary for the course and necessary for your success in the course, general expectations in the course. It should include a schedule of assignments, and then it also tells you a little bit about the grading. So I'm going to give you some examples just to kind of give you an idea of where you might find these different areas or these different parts of the syllabus on each of your syllabi. So this is just like a screenshot of an education syllabus, and just a couple like parts of the basic information that you want to make sure that you're aware of in every course is double check that it's the 15-week session that you thought you registered for, right? Make sure that it's the course that you thought you registered for. You want to do that kind of like, I realize that our week just happened to be this week, but I realized that that was a couple of weeks ago. But you want to make sure that you're, at the right campus, where that you thought you registered for. I know that's a little bit tricky right now with the fact that we are safely joining in still from Zoom for all of our courses. However, hopefully when we have the opportunity to go back onto campus, you want to make sure that you're matching up with where you thought you were registered. If it's a hybrid course, if it's a fully online course, if it's synchronous, if it's asynchronous, do I have to go to a building in a room? So there's some general information that you want to make sure that you're aware of. I have this little click to add text that I need to get out of there. How to get in touch with your instructor. So email address, sometimes they'll give you a phone number. When to get in touch with your instructor. Do they have office hours? Are those office hours at a set time? Are they by appointment? You want to make sure that there are no prerequisites for the course. And if there are prerequisites, you want to make sure that you're meeting those prerequisites. Now, often our registration system won't allow you to go on to register for a course that you have not met the prerequisite for. However, with everybody transferring, sometimes sometimes people register, the last week before classes start, or sometimes the first week that classes do start, and those transfer courses aren't in yet, and sometimes things are overridden. So you want to make sure that you have met those prerequisites, and that you are taking the co-requisites. So for example, anatomy and physiology, you want to make sure that you're taking the lecture with the lab, right? So just kind of some examples of the basic course information that you want to get to know. The other thing I have blocked out here, just to kind of like give some anonymity to this particular syllabus here that I chose to take a screenshot of, is you want to know your instructor's name. It's important to know your instructor's name. And as silly as that might sound, there are a lot of students who don't know who their instructor is. So make sure that you know who your instructor is, so that you can, have a conversation with him or her, and then also be able to discuss, ask questions about that course if necessary. Here's just an example of a syllabus that does have a prerequisite. So if this is a higher level education course, and it does have the prerequisite of EDU 100, which is the entry course to education. This is a course description, and I don't need to read through all of this. It just happens to be like a course description for an information literacy course, but it is something that you want to make sure that you're aware of. It's important when you're in a course that you understand what the course is about, right? And it's not just so much like I'm checking courses off a list because I want to get a degree. Let's, take the time. Even if your instructor doesn't go over it, or maybe if you kind of checked out when your instructor is going over it, because that first week can be super overwhelming when you're like looking at the entire semester for every syllabus in every class you go into. Go back and double check and have an idea of what the description of the course is, so that you understand the relevance of the course in your overall goals. For your overall goals. Syllabi also contain course objectives, and sometimes they'll contain outcomes. So these are important for us to know, because you want to make sure that you are meeting those objectives as the semester progresses. So this particular syllabus actually really gives you some detail here, because it talks about each different course outcome that's expected by the end of the semester that the student will meet, and then how it connects to certification groups for this particular subject, or this particular path, which is education. So you want to make sure that, by the end of the semester, you have done the objectives that you were expected to meet. The syllabus will also contain required textbooks and materials for you. So sometimes, you'll actually see the ISBN number of the textbook. You actually should always see the ISBN number, but sometimes you'll just get the title. And you want to make sure that if there's something listed as a required text or required material for your course, that you are purchasing or borrowing that material, because typically if it's on the syllabus and it's considered required, then that means you'll need those materials in order to be successful in the course. Often you'll find that there are online packages available. One thing that you could do is, like, if you see that there's a textbook along with an online component, and they're the same name, sometimes you can just get the online component and then use the ebook in that. So that can save you a little bit of money. But you want to just definitely make sure that you're looking at those materials and making sure that you have access to those materials in order to ensure your success in the class. And then here's an example of, we don't see the ISBN number here for the required text, but it does tell you what the edition is. It does tell you the author, so you can search that up. And then it also just shows you like technology needed. Like, it's going to be important in this class to have internet access, word processing software. You're going to have to use your MC3 email. So these are things that you want to make sure that you're aware of. Way back in 2019, in order to be successful in the class, you might not have needed internet access or, word processing software, but some classes did need it. And now, it would be very difficult to get away with not having that access. So you want to make sure that if you don't have that access, you're talking to your advisor to find resources that can help you get that access. You'll see on a syllabus the expectations in your course. So a couple things that I really like to point out, and this is a super detailed attendance policy, but it is really important for students to know what the attendance policy is in their course. It's always sad when a student at the end of the semester says, well, my average was 85. I know I passed the course, but for some reason, like it showed up that I had to repeat the course. And then they go back to the attendance policy and they see the attendance policy said, well, you started after your third absence, you were automatically didn't pass. Or after the fifth absence, you were getting docked points that maybe you just didn't realize were happening. Okay. So you want to make sure, or like I'm getting docked if I use my cell phone. That's considered an absence if I was on my cell phone in the class. So just make sure that you're looking over the expectations in the course. And one of those really important parts of the expectations would be the attendance policy. Here's another one for an online course that's fully online, which is hard to take attendance for a fully online course. And it's basically saying like, you need to be using the chat in Blackboard. You need to be engaging in Blackboard in order to be considered attending class or be considered present for that class. You might find in the expectations different ways to communicate with your instructor. So this instructor, is just saying like you can send your communication via Blackboard or by your MC3 email account. This one, there was something in there. It's also giving the expectations that you can have from your instructor, this particular example. So like, for example, this one says, I make it my habit to check my emails daily, and you can expect a return response within 24 hours, Monday through Friday. So one thing that I will mention from, if I were to put on my advising hat, is to tell you that if you have not heard back from an instructor where you clearly see the expectation, where they've clearly set the expectation for you to receive an email back 24 hours later, resend that email. It's not badgering. It's you just saying, hey, I just wanted to make sure you saw my email. Maybe the particular instructor had a flurry of emails at the time that you sent yours, and like me, opened it from their phone and then didn't see that, it wasn't marked as unread, and then you missed it the next day. So it's okay for you to kind of send a repeat email, especially if you have something as detailed as this from your instructor that tells you what your expectations can be of him or her. And then on your syllabus, typically we'll see the schedule of assignments that are due throughout the semester. So you'll probably find this at the end of the syllabus where you can see like what's expected of you throughout the semester. Now, often there'll be like a little disclaimer that these assignments might change depending on, how far you guys get from class to class. But this is a general expectation of like, it should show you kind of where your midterms are, where your papers might be due, where, if you have a discussion board post every week. So you want to make sure that you're very familiar with that. Another thing that I always point out to students is if you see anything about readings in your syllabus. So it's a little different from high school. I don't know each of your experience in college so far, but it's different from the fact that nobody is going to tell you before next class, hey, don't forget to read chapter 1. So the expectation is if it's on your syllabus that you need to read chapter 1, then that's how you're going to be able to be prepared for the next class. So always double check your syllabus, even if you don't have a paper due and you don't have a test. There may very well be a reading assignment that can help you be successful and help you engage in that next class. And if you don't love reading, I do recommend that you reach out to one of our study skills tutors, because they can give you ways to kind of review or actively, engage in your readings so you can take a little bit more away from them. Because I know when I was in college, it was just like I was following my finger to turn pages. And then, 35 minutes later and 20 pages later, I didn't know anything more than when I started. So if you find that to be your experience, you tend not to read, right? So I do encourage you to talk to a study skills coach or study skills tutor to kind of get some more strategies to read more effectively. So you'll see your major assignments, you'll see your quizzes and tests, and you'll see your assigned readings. This is just an example of how one course is set up grading wise. And so it's important for you to always check your syllabus for how your assignments are graded. And the reason for that is often students will say, well, my average is this out of, however many points. However, if different assignments are weighted with different weights, your average is going to be a little bit trickier to kind of figure out mathematically. It doesn't mean that you can't figure it out. It's just that you need to know, like, for example, here, the final research project with presentation is 30% of the course. So at the very end of the course, something is worth 30% of that course. So until you get to there, you're really only earning up to 70% of that course. So it's really important to be aware of the grading and the way that that's set up. Some things are very straightforward, just a general average, but it is important to be aware of that. You might see information about participation and how it's, you might be getting marked off twice in class. You need to participate twice in class and it's getting marked off, and that's part of your participation grade. It could be part of your attendance grade. And you might also, I see this more often in English courses, you might also have a general rubric in your syllabus for how discussion board posts should look, or how, weekly written assignments need to look. So if you are finding that you're submitting things and for whatever reason, you're submitting assignments and you're not getting as many points as you expected to get, check your syllabus and see if there's a rubric in there that's showing you this is the expectation. I worked with a student who he was submitting his discussion board posts, and they were like super detailed, like tons of information, and he couldn't understand why he was getting, not getting 100% each time. And it turned out that really it was just supposed to be 2 paragraphs. And that's all the discussion board post was supposed to be. So he wasn't necessarily meeting the criteria. And I said, come on in, let's take a look at your syllabus and let's see if we can find a rubric for that in the syllabus. Policy and resources. Now, it is important for you to know course-specific policies, so possibly lab etiquette, what the online meeting platform situation might be in your class, what will happen for late and missed work or missed tests. You're going to want to make yourself familiar with that information so you're not blindsided. Some classes you might be able to make up a test, other classes you might not. So, that's going to be really important for you to know how that works. You might be able to swap out your, take a 0 on one of your tests and only use the other 2 tests. So, make sure that you're checking out that information. And then also it's going to be really important for you to know the college-wide policies and resources. So the syllabi are set up differently, and I think they're evolving actually right now. So some might actually have links to policies like your academic integrity policy, the FERPA policy, or they might actually be printed on your syllabus. So you want to make sure that you're aware of those. If the actual written words aren't on your syllabus, make sure you're following those links to get what the policies are for these different areas, college-wide areas. And then you also might have a list of resources on your syllabus. If you don't have a list of resources, if you're finding that you don't know where to go for certain things, reach out obviously to your Act 101 coach or to your advisor. You can even reach out to tutorial services, and I'm sure the library would be happy to answer questions about resources on campus and lead you to that. I know that wasn't super exciting information. I love the syllabus because I know that students can really be helped by the syllabus. But does anybody have any questions about the syllabus or general comments about the syllabus before we move forward?
I had the same issue with the rubric, so I'm glad you went over that.
Oh, good. Where you had to look on was it on your syllabus?
It was on there.
Yeah.
Yes, it was on there, but I didn't quite understand it. And it was the same thing with the discussion board. I'm like, what am I was doing my discussion board, but I wasn't getting any points from it. So I had to go back. Matter of fact, I didn't even see it on the syllabus. And then I asked my instructor and she said, check your syllabus. Then when I checked my syllabus, I fixed it. And she did. She was nice about it because she didn't have to give me
sometimes it's kind of embedded in there and you don't realize that it's especially when you have all that policy, it's kind of embedded in there, and then you don't realize, okay, the format has changed here in this, this list of things. And now there's some objectives that are, being set for me. I love the syllabus and I love rubrics, but I'm a different kind of person.
So I recently went through my syllabus in the beginning of this year, and I'm going to be going through all my syllabuses now because my professor actually put in extra credit if you read it inside the syllabus, 10 points. And I'm so happy I got the extra credit.
Well, I mean, and if your professor is offering extra credit, there's a reason. Like, it's that important. So that's great. That's awesome. And it should, if one professor does it and then you realize how important it was because you did it for that class, hopefully that will help you with the rest of your classes, even, as you move forward each semester. It's really easy to just tuck that syllabus away after the first week of class. I know my one son, he gets so anxious during syllabus week because it's like you go to each class and you're sort of like forecasting the whole semester, and you're looking at every test that you're going to have and every paper that's going to be due. And he just shuts down and he puts those syllabi away. And I'm like, Eric, just put them where you can access them later and when you can breathe.
It is overwhelming.
It is. That first week can be super, super overwhelming. Even though it's like, I probably won't have a ton of homework. It's just like, there's so much information to kind of, to take in that first week. So if you take the time on your own to kind of look at what's important, then, you can kind of chill a little bit. There's not a lot of expected of you as you review the syllabus. It's just important that you are paying attention or take the time later to pay attention. I can stop sharing this. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kevin Strunk, who's got some more good syllabus stuff for us.
Thank you, Kimberly. That was really important, I think, to get that grounding in it. And now we can look at some examples. And of course, if you guys have any examples of your own that you want to pull out, we'll have kind of shared examples that we all have that are in common, since we all would have different experiences. But by breaking down some of those parts, I think we'd be in a much stronger place now. So I was thinking a lot about that. And one other thing I'll add before I share my own screen is about, with the syllabus in one hand, and whether you actually print it out or if you have it on one screen or one tab, comparing it also to the things that you get to know inside of Blackboard or any learning management system. And understanding the relationship can also help with some of those kind of situations we were talking about, like, your discussion board posts are not getting you the credit you want. Make sure that before too long, you don't have to be a zealot about checking your grade every day necessarily, but you might want to go in and see what happens when you click on your grade book and say, how am I doing right now? Are there any strange things going on? Because it's so much easier to correct things early than to at the end of the semester say, wait, I did that. And then try to find the paperwork or paper trail of what you did, and then also try to communicate that to your professor. So when I TA with different classes, which I do sometimes, a librarian who comes in and is embedded, I'm often looking, and sometimes I'll see if I can see, somebody, tried to email us something that has the content, but they really need to submit it this way, for it to be entered into the grade and not be marked absent or missing. And some of these things can be reconstructed later, but the more chaff that's thrown out there, the more confusion, the harder it is to address those things for both your professor and for yourselves when you get, a lot of other things going on. But all right, let's think about what happens that first week when you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 syllabi that all have a lot of repetitive things, because there's some policies that will repeat themselves. They'll be consistent across the board. Let's see about the kind of things that we should look for. And to do that, we're going to try to have this sort of shared experience of what we're looking for. Oh no. Oh, there it is. Okay, good. I can do this. All right. So one method could be to use something like a syllabus worksheet like this that we can make available for you. And you can consider this a checklist of sorts that you can go through. You can either go through it with each one individually, or I was also thinking about how you could go through and do the same thing with multiple courses, which might look something like this. This one. So you can imagine if you had 4 courses, like an art course, an education course, a marketing course, or an honors seminar, all these things are happening at once. You could imagine how you could forecast when you're going to take on these things. You could also put it in a calendar and try to do some sort of monthly calendar, but this is just a way to kind of visualize and understand what's going on. Attendance in the course is optional, probably not. But how often do you want to check in? And everyone might require more or less of you when you're trying to manage your time. If there's anything unusual, also like some of the things we might see about, oh, there's a lot of stuff that happens regularly at this time, but not here. And I do need to check in before Saturday, though, because there's going to be replying to my classmates on discussion board. I have to do that before Saturday, even though, a lot of other things aren't due until Tuesday of the next week. Looking at attendance and figuring out some of what you need to do there. You can figure out your percentages, seeing if something is like an outlier, like an honors seminar that maybe doesn't do as much or require as much in terms of that. Maybe it's more about working together with a group. Valuable part of the course in terms of point value. We could imagine how we could plug in some things here, and some courses may require other things. Maybe the art is going to be the outlier there because you're actually painting for an entire month on one painting. That's a great course that we have here, is one where you'll probably only have time to create, maybe 3, maybe 4 works through the semester. You'll just be working very diligently on them and getting feedback on your, from your professor. The Blackboard thing is very similar to the attendance. How often do you need to come in? You can schedule this, and this can keep you from getting into trouble if you feel like you're getting a little bit behind on something. We have a comment on the floor. Are we okay? Oh, good. Marquetta. I'm glad you think it's awesome. Ways to contact, Kimberly told you a little bit about that. Like usually you're going to have multiple ways. So it might be that everybody loves college email. That's obviously something we do. They may have trouble with private emails because, you may have different blockers on computers that might throw things in the trash if they come from that. So I'd be a little wary of sometimes of doing that, or it might not get noticed. Probably some of you know that through your learning management system, you can also send things, like the email client can actually work through there. So you don't necessarily have to go out to your email client first. That can be really handy because when it comes in that way, there might be some things that can more quickly orient your professor that it's this class. Because, a professor can have multiple sections, multiple classes. They might have the same class name, it could still be Art 102, but then they might have a couple sections. And so you're taking a little bit of the confusion away if they see exactly what section you're coming from, because the email they get from Blackboard, still coming from your email, also has that, this is coming from this course exactly. And so they go, click into, they'll be able to orient themselves, and they won't have to go somewhere else and say, okay, which section, is my student in that I'm talking to? Okay, there it is. So that can also help facilitate better communication, is using tools like that. Other ways, though, like, think about what office hours mean, and how you can get in touch. Chat windows, phone numbers might be there, but office hours are interesting, especially now. We'll get back to this, I'm sure, before the semester's out, where the professors will be on campus certain days and you can walk in. But virtual office hours are also a thing. And that's sometimes a great way to get in touch with somebody, away from the task-oriented or hustle and bustle of the class time itself. Like, you can do that too, but maybe office hours are the time that you want to approach something and say, I need to ask you a question about something we did 2 weeks ago. Maybe that's a great time to do that with a little bit less stress of we're trying to remember what happened today in class. Required textbooks. I was really glad that Kimberly talked a lot about this. Sometimes that's like the most common question I get in the first 2 weeks of class, is that people are looking for things and they may not be clear on what they can get from the college bookstore, which is a separate company. And I hope you guys did not have a lot of stress, but there's often a lot of stress of getting things shipped to you on time. And sometimes books can be like kind of held up for different reasons, and you're waiting for it, or you're waiting for funds to come through that allow you to buy the books. That can be really tricky. And while there are often links when you register for a course where they might be able to send you to that. They're not always going to be so clear cut as to all the stuff you need. Sometimes you have to look up the course in the actual bookstore, and then you'll say, aha, there's all the stuff I need. And there's the ISBN. So if I plug it in somewhere else, I will only be seeing that version and not, 12 different editions for the last 20 years or so and say, oh no, which one do I need? And they're all different prices and you want to have the right one and not slow yourself down. Because that can be really confusing. And even if you're going on a site that gives you lots of information, it's more than you should ever have to go through to have to look at the whole history of a very common textbook. Far easier to get that unique identifier of the ISBN and plug that in, and then you know that you're getting the right thing. You will still have to read a little bit carefully and make sure that the thing you're getting, if you're getting versus an ebook only versus something where you get the ebook and you also get a print copy, keep an eye on that because that can get a little bit tricky. And certainly ask questions if you have to before you make your purchase. There's lots of times there's little windows where you could talk to somebody about that. And my colleagues and I are always happy to help people walk their way through that if they're not sure. Okay, yes. And then there's some other things that we talked about technologies. We do have labs on campus, but right now it's not really feasible for us to keep those open for people. However, there are certain things you can do with the IT department has been giving out machinery and boosters and other things to make sure people have like the best possible tools to be able to work online as much as possible for now. We also have, different sections. We've opened up things at different campuses, places where people can go and still be nicely socially distanced from everyone, but can make use of some of the equipment there and spaces. And that's something that we'll probably keep doing. And I think we can expect to keep happening. I know there's the Connect and Recharge room at West, and there's lots of places where people are going in the health science building at Bluebell, and that will happen again, although we've had to be very careful about our policies because of, surges of COVID, but we'll get there again so that if you do want to use some of that and not just use what you have at home, you have that option. I know the library, of course, has always been a haven to folks who have needed to really focus, and they find that sometimes home can be a problem. Abigail has her hand raised, who I see, from the looks like you're in a library somewhere by the look of things. I hope they're giving you lots of room there to focus, and it's a nice environment for you.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about, do they still have places open on campus right now for like people that are no?
Last I checked, I think that we're going to reevaluate in like a week. But I believe what we could do is like, I can give you the number for, well, are you closer to the West Campus or the Bluebell campus?
Bluebell.
Okay. Yeah, I could probably give you a number for someone to call, or I could try to get you that answer after, just to see like where we are now. If the Health Science Center is still an option, because that's a great place. Like I think you can get away from everybody and, have a fair expectation of privacy, unless they have decided to be a bit more restrictive right now and discourage people from that. Because I don't want you to take your time going over there and then find that, you're being discouraged away from that. But I can definitely get back to you on that if you'd like, if you are interested in another space away from another option.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay.
It's mostly have to do with the internet service. Like,
yeah, no, that's completely valid.
It's better at the school than here because I have to use my phone and it's always so slow.
Some hotspot kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can probably help with that. There are ways. And not just the Health Science Center at Bluebell. I believe we had folks who were in Park House. When the weather gets better, people, of course, can spread out even more, and we'll have some options near buildings and around the quad. But for now, of course, we have to assume that it's going to be too cold to be outside. we're not there yet. And we'll see what we can do about that. So I will follow up with you on that. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you though for also giving us that example, because I'm sure we're all going to be there at different times. I've had to do that a little bit when I did work on campus last semester. We have, oh yeah, okay. So there's also some excellent stuff here about, how do we get, what kind of things can we refer to? Is there any language that says things are only going to be textbook and course materials, or is there more that we need to do? Are there things that we can get through other sources? And maybe they won't have an answer on this, and you'll understand that they're going to give you a lot of materials, and they're going to establish that when you are on the assignment, when you receive the assignment instructions for each task and each assignment. But you may also see some interesting stuff about where you can get things and where you want to focus your energies in terms of materials and places to get information. We talked already enough, I think, about discussion boards, so I'm not going to reiterate too much of that. A lot of these are going to, be similar to what Kimberly said, really looking at what they're asking for and making sure that you fulfill that as closely as possible. Struggling with the course. There are a lot of options for you that have been alluded to already about, tutors, ways to get guidance. Always, you should probably feel like you can talk to your tutors, your instructors about this, but you can also talk to other folks as well. And maybe there will be some sections that also encourage you to make use of other resources, whether it's TAs in math classes or any kind of practicum type situation. We used to call it practicum, but it would be like essentially a drill or some sort of, adjacent to the class. There would be things you could do when you're going to get work done to reinforce the concepts. I mean, tutoring is the most obvious example, but there may even be other things that are built in that you can take advantage of. Okay. And then I had some suggestions here at the end of just help desk, which can do a lot for you with technical issues and other things that you might be thinking about. How to populate your digital calendars with reminders. There's a lot of interesting tools out there. There's an assignment calculator I share with people a lot that's free. Plagiarism, you want to avoid even accidental plagiarism, which can happen. Say that you want to share a article with somebody, make sure people know where it's coming from so they don't think that you're just passing that work off as your own. And the consequences and such, we I think talked about, like making sure you get things in on time, keeping track of when things are due. Policies for making up missing opportunities for extra credit. Great. That's exactly where Kimberly left off, I think, was one of the last things she mentioned about extra credit. No, actually, one of our students talked about extra credit. That was Marquetta, I think, who mentioned finding extra credit. Fantastic. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing this for now, though. And how are we doing on time?
You're good. You still have 19 minutes. You have the whole hour blocked.
Excellent. Okay. So what do you think, Kimberly? Should we just share some of that information with people, the checklists and anything else that they might want?
Yeah, I'm thinking if you share that blank checklist, I know you have that, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the students, what do you guys think? I know some people had said that was super. Marquetta said it's awesome. I agree.
I wanted to know where you get that so I could post it in the Monco Connect group for our students.
I definitely would like that. And I would also like to find the information about the assignment calculator.
Oh, sure. Well, I'll share that in the chat right now.
Okay.
Now, if you were to go to any search engine and put in assignment calculator, you would probably find the same one that I might recommend, although there's a lot of great ones. What we're talking about here is University of Minnesota is the ones who I think put together like one of the first ones. And so they're often the top result. And theirs is fantastic. It's just they only have a few different options for them, but most people would probably say research paper is fine. And you put in your start and due date. So it could be like today's date. And then let's say that you have 2 weeks. And so you're thinking about, oh, I'm gonna say like it's due on the 17th or something. And all it really does is it just breaks down, like, here's how you could pace yourself. By the first day, are you going to fully understand and select the topic? Because I know that even the best students, and I feel like this is very universal among a lot of educators like myself and others, is that we all talk about how sometimes we love school so much, but we still would not always manage our time right. And so like we'd say, oh, that's 2 weeks away. That's a 2 week away problem. I'm going to concentrate on other things. And then we would sometimes all of a sudden feel this like twinge of panic about 3 days before. And then we would jump up and we would look and we'd say, oh my God, there's so much to do. And then some things had gotten a little harder to do because, having to cram all that in a short period of time. So it's very universal. It's not at all surprising to have that feeling, and things like this are just a way of taking some of that burden off of your hands to say, okay, can this stand as my deadlines? And it's just automatically generating. I don't need to go to my calendar and necessarily like figure out all the days. It just inputs backward from the 17th. Like, okay, if we were to say, this is like how much of your assignment, like 5% of your assignment roughly is just to understand it. Try to do this the second day, on the 4th. Not today, you just work on this tomorrow. And they give you some suggestions on how you can break down your assignment in different ways. Drafting a thesis or research question that happens on the 5th. So it's breaking down into smaller digestible chunks. And you can see now it's saying, all right, well, now you up your ante a little bit, you kick it up a notch and you start talking about, let's evaluate things and make sure we can go through these questions. That not only do we understand our topic and not only do we have a research question, we can kind of take that research question and start to look for some evidence. They have these little percentages here. This is 20% of your time roughly. So it's making sure that you don't try to take on too much at once. Like what a great feeling it's going to be when you like accomplish one of these steps and you're like, and now I stop. I'm not going to try to keep going. I'm going to spare myself of what we call our cognitive load, like a topic of feeling overwhelmed. I'm not going to try to do it all the same night, either long before it's due or too much. I'm going to take advantage of breaking this down and being able to consider things. And then you can see, all the different steps, including some things that you then can do about writing first drafts or revision. By this point, you're just this last point here, the day before, you're basically just polishing it. And now let's say something happens. Let's say you have a life issue and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I actually can't do this now. I need to travel to see a sick relative. And my new start date is going to be the 7th. And it's just going to rejigger it. Mm-hmm. Now, it does mean that everything is going to be a little more compressed. You're going to have to do a little more with each step. But once again, they're just saying like, okay, we've just recalculated and now there's a little more to do with each one.
And can I just interject? I wanted to point out that, when you break things, especially something like a research paper, when you break things down into smaller chunks and you're, meeting objectives on a daily or, every couple day basis, that's going to give you the momentum, to keep moving forward rather than having that sort of paralysis that you've got too much to do. Mm-hmm. We were in a tutorial services meeting yesterday and somebody had pointed out, and I don't know the research, but apparently research shows that if you set a goal, the best way to meet that goal, short-term goal for sure, is to meet it within 1 week. So rather than saying, I have a paper due in 2 weeks and I'll get to that, next Wednesday, do parts of it this week so that way that forward momentum will be happening for you. Same thing with, studying for an exam. Mm-hmm. If you've got an exam that's got 4 chapters on it, well, you don't want to wait until, next Thursday to study for Friday's exam. You want to make sure that you're reviewing parts leading up to that exam.
Very true. And it gives you a bit of wiggle room if there are catastrophes or just, obstacles like, I started with this topic. I felt really passionate about it. We hear this all the time. And now, though, that I'm looking at some of these evidence, like I feel uncomfortable with my topic as I understood it. Like maybe I need to change my topic, and I say, okay, wait, don't change your topic, like, and start over. Like, see what you can salvage from it. I'm always like counseling people through that about, let's look at your topic and let's see if maybe your research question needs to change or some of the contents. But I think you have to kind of be nice to yourself and not throw everything out when it doesn't just all align very easily from the get-go. Sometimes that happens where, like, from the jump, it doesn't always work. There might just be some added difficulty, but it doesn't mean that the topic is no good. And we can, if you give yourself some time, like if you're working through it at this steady pace, you'll have time to make touch with tutors, librarians, your instructor, and be able to adjust. And that's super important, to be able to adjust and get guidance if you feel like, I just don't know if this is working. Help me figure this out, how I can make it work. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share that with you guys. I want to get back to the original page. This is one of them. This is an assignment calculator from them, but there are others out there. So if you ever wanted to look at some of the others, there's one from Connecticut. Make sure it's the assignment calculator, not the grade calculator, but it's more or less the same thing. So whatever, variation on this you prefer. And this one I think is also the same. Yeah, I think I've used this one before.
While Kevin's doing that, I wanted to just, I was reminded of something that Kevin said when he mentioned like a TA, like a teaching assistant in your course. In that general course information on your syllabus at the very top, things to look up there, because you might not only have your instructor's name on there, but you may have a teaching assistant. We have supplemental instruction in some of our courses, and we also have embedded tutors in some of our courses. So make use of those folks if they happen to be in one of the courses that you're in, because they can certainly help to reiterate content and also help with general learning skills.
Yes, and if anybody else, like Abigail is doing a bunch of courses in health sciences, you may even have many names, and you might have, other folks who are working in specialized capacity for clinical context, and that could be a different creature, but also people who are there to help you for their particular specialties. Okay, let's get the latest of the worksheet up there, and then I can share that. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment while I get you guys the link to the worksheet. I'm going to upload it real quick because I want to make sure it is the latest.
Additionally, Kevin mentioned that, with that assignment calculator for something like writing a research paper, all of those parts, even if you think that brainstorming is a silly thing to meet with a tutor for, you can certainly meet with a tutor for every part. When you're looking at gathering sources, the library is still available, even though it's not physically open on campus. The librarians are able to help you through the chats and the online searches. So, make sure that you're reaching out to your resources. I always say that while the services are free on campus, you're paying for them somewhere. So in the tuition, that's included. So, you wouldn't, not, well, some people do pay for the gym and not go to the gym, but you shouldn't pay for the gym and not go to the gym, right?
So that's the worksheet. I guess I should have you guys try it, though. Any of you are interested, make sure that you can actually get it. That link should allow you to get it. And if anyone can't, let me know and I'll work on that again to fix that. Should be open. Great. Okay, I think I can see some folks are getting in, or at least more bubbles are appearing. Good.
I think Katie was having trouble coming in and out with her internet.
Oh,
okay. No worries, Katie. So the link is for a worksheet that Kevin had shared with us. I don't know if you were in for part of that, for you guys to go ahead and just kind of go through. It's almost like a checklist that you can check off, fill in the different areas for each of your syllabi.
This one right here. Okay.
So I think this is successful, if you ask me. I think that I always love to learn from students, so I enjoyed some of your feedback and learned from some of your feedback, and I appreciate that. I do have, great, Marquetta, that's great. So you were able to open it. I do have everybody's email address, and like I said, I will share that with Patty Abdallah from Tutorial Services, and she'll enter everybody into a raffle because she's got some goodies to give away. So we'll be in touch if your name is selected.
So Kevin, is this the right link then for that to share with the students in our Act 101 group if they want to use this as a tool for themselves, or is this a read-only version? Or
you should be able to download it and edit it. So if you want to upload it somewhere else,
I was able to print it.
That's okay.
So download it first. Okay.
I mean, yeah, probably that's best, because that way you'll have it and you don't need to worry if the link expires or something.
Okay, good.
It shouldn't, but sometimes Office does weird things online.
Yeah. I'll save it. I'll save a copy of it and then I'll rename it, and then
Go for it.
And that way it won't affect the original.
No worries.
Yeah, mine is like taking forever to load, so I don't think it's gonna.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make it. I'm sure we can get it to you another way. I can try sending it as an attachment when I follow up with the about spaces.
This was awesome. I never heard of the assignment calculator, and the worksheet's going to be great. So
excellent.
Thank you so much, everybody.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks
and good luck in all your good luck in all your classes. And of course, you can go and you can find links to tutoring off of Blackboard. You've probably already discovered that's there on every class you have. Okay. And you have links to the library page, which also has our links to the individuals who can help you, including the real-time chat is there as well. Oh, and I'll put mine in there too.
Yeah, if you have any questions or you have any concerns about like reaching tutors or some of the resources, feel free to reach out to me. I'm sure Kevin would be happy to help as well.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a good one.
Right.
Stay warm and dry.